What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Party on Broad. The NFL draft is just a mere 48 hours away, and we are doing our final full first round mock for the 2023 NFL draft. To help me do that, you've seen him many times on this show. He is Ryan Reese, the Wizard of Oz of Philly Sports Alliance, the guy pulling all the strings in the background. What's going on, Ryan?
I like that. Thank you. Well, not much, man. I am this is any football nerd who just loves the draft. This is like Christmas. This is Thanksgiving. This is whatever you want, all rolled into one. And we got 2 days left. I cannot wait. I'm probably not going to sleep on Wednesday night, to be perfectly honest.
No.
I hope my boss doesn't expect me to do a single shred of work on Thursday or Friday, for that matter. I'm just so pumped. I'm so excited to see what we do, what Howie has, up his sleeve. Right now we're hearing rumors left and right, and you kind of got to take everything with a grain of salt. But it's exciting to kind of hear certain things, and yeah, it's all a chess match. But man, I love it. I love every second of it. I cannot wait.
Cannot wait. Let's jump right in. We don't know who's picking first or second, but to do that, we are going to do a wheel spinner to see who gets the first overall selection. And we're just going to go back and forth on this one. Good luck, Ryan. Here we go. All right.
Alrighty.
All right. Congratulations. You have the first overall selection. Let me share my screen.
I got
There we go. All right, we're using the Draft Network's mock draft simulator. I'm going to throw us down here just so we can see a little bit better. Go ahead, Ryan. On the clock.
Well, I'm gonna take my sweet time walking up to the podium on this one. Carolina's had about a month and a half now. I think it's been since they've traded for the number one pick with the Chicago Bears. They obviously know at this point who they are selecting, and I fully believe that they are going to go with Bryce Young out of Alabama. Give their new staff, Frank Reich, a new toy to play with, a new quarterback, and I think he will end up being a pretty good quarterback in this league. And I think it's an easy selection. I think he is definitely a cut above the other quarterbacks here. So Bryce Young to Carolina.
All right. There we go. How do we change this? Oh, draft class. Weird. All right. Bryce Young to the Carolina Panthers, which means the Houston Texans are on the clock. I'm looking at kind of team needs for what the Houston Texans are looking at. Draft Network says edge, quarterback, offensive tackle. When I look at my board, I look at quarterback, I look at offensive line, defensive line, wide receiver. Houston has a lot of needs, and although I wouldn't do it, I think Houston will absolutely take a quarterback here with the second pick. You look at kind of some other needs. Houston had arguably the worst pass catching group in the league after trading Brandon Cooks. No offense to Robert Woods and Nico Collins. So wide receiver could be a guy they target with the 12th pick. We'll get to that in a bit. Defensive line is also a need too. This team needs an injection of youth. But I'm going to go with what I think is going to happen, and that is C.J. Stroud to the Houston Texans. He's arguably one of the, if not the best pocket passer in this draft. So C.J. Stroud to the Texans. Go ahead, Ryan.
Arizona certainly does have a good amount of needs. They seem to have, a team that needs a lot of defense. They certainly have a lot of needs offensively. It seems like DeAndre Hopkins might be leaving. There's some question marks with Kyler Murray, with his injuries, and did he, maybe he took a step back, but Yeah, I personally think the Cardinals would be smart to trade back here. This is kind of where you could probably gain a lot of value from teams trying to get that third quarterback. But if they do manage to keep their own pick, I don't see how they pass up Will Anderson. I know there's been a lot of smokescreen rumors about maybe Jalen Carter or Tyree Wilson. I just think Will Anderson is that clear cut best defensive player in this draft, and they'd be fools to pass him up. So I am going to go with Will Anderson to the Arizona Cardinals. Basically, they haven't had a stud defensive player since as obviously JJ retire, and so they need to replace that and move forward and build that defense, and hopefully Buda Baker can stay and build on the defense. So
All right, Will Anderson to the Arizona Cardinals, which means I am on the clock here with the Indianapolis Colts. I'm watching this clock here to make sure I get it right. You look at what the Colts need. This one's really tough. They need to end the streak of veterans past their prime, especially at quarterback. They need to add rare, exciting talent. Quarterback, cornerback, offensive line is a big, areas of need. They traded former Defensive Player of the Year Stephon Gilmore to the Cowboys. That leaves the Colts without any cornerbacks drafted earlier than the 6th round. So they've got big needs there as well. And this is a position I have gone back and forth. And the guy I'm going to target here might be a little bit of a surprise, but it is what it is. I'm going to go Will Levis. He's currently getting some buzz with that number 2 selection. I admittedly am not the biggest Anthony Richardson fan. I think his upside is tremendous, but not unlike Malik Willis. I'm not comparing the two. It's a major swing for the fences. So I'm going to go Will Levis, who I think is a little bit of a better fit in Indianapolis. And I could be totally wrong, and I usually am, but that is my selection.
Yeah, I've definitely been hearing some Levis to Indy for sure lately. So I could definitely see that for sure.
All right. You are on the clock with the Seattle Seahawks.
So Seattle certainly has some needs. Defensive line, linebackers, corner, guard. There's been certainly talk about adding another wide receiver to the mix there. As Lockett, starting to get a little bit up there, but this is another one where you got to question the longevity of Geno Smith. He certainly had a great year, comeback player of the year, and really filled in quite nicely for them. So, but I just think they are going to ride him as long as he'll allow it, and start building that defense back up. Pete Carroll certainly is known for building quite a nice defense. I think I am going to go with who I think is the second best edge. It's a need for them, and I'm going to select Tyree Wilson to Seattle. I just think the need is there, and they need to start building up that line. And there's thought of maybe Jalen Carter there, but I think he might be scaring a few teams away. And I think Tyree Wilson's kind of a more of a sure thing, I think, in their eyes, and that's where they're going. So,
yep. The Detroit Lions are on the clock here with the number 6 pick. The Lions have the luxury of 2 first-rounders, but they also have the luxury of not needing too much. They have Jared Goff at quarterback. They have a solid pass-catching core, a solid offensive line. Last year's big-time first-rounder, Aiden Hutchinson, was really, really strong last year. They have kind of remade their secondary in free agency with 3 new quarterbacks. But you got to start with defense, I think, in this area. This is where the Eagles, I think, start having heart palpitations because the Lions gave up the most yards most yards per play last year. I think another defensive lineman to pair with Aiden Hutchinson makes so much sense in this area. Unfortunately for Eagles fans, I think they're going to go with BPA here and just bring a beast on the defensive line. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go Jalen Carter to the Detroit Lions. I think that just makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
There it is. So Lions pick up Jalen Carter, who is a sensational prospect. Definitely has red flags off the field. But when it comes to twitch, pass rushing, 3-down starter from the jump, there's not a lot of guys in this draft that provide that. And I'm sad as an Eagles fan, but happy for the Lions. And that Hutchinson, Jalen Carter combination could be absolutely elite moving forward.
Yeah, I think Dan Campbell's certainly a type of coach that can kind of get the most out of Carter, and hopefully, grow his maturity as he grows into the league. So I think that'd be a good spot for him personally. But yeah, as an Eagles fan, it would be a little sad.
Yeah.
All right, the Raiders. The Raiders are up. They just added Jimmy G. They have added Jacoby Myers. So they added certainly some pieces on offense. I think their biggest need is corner. And there are a couple of nice corners there sitting pretty for the Raiders at 7. They could also use some offensive line, but I think value-wise, I think it's smarter to go with the corner. So I'm going to go with Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon, as the first corner off the board to the Raiders. I think this gives them a potential lockdown corner for the next 7-8 years, and hopefully they can kind of rebuild that Raiders secondary for years to come. I think it's a smart move, and they definitely need to hit on this pick and not do what the Raiders normally do, and that's usually something weird. So just keep it simple there, Raiders.
Yep. I love that selection. That's who I also have them going with. The Atlanta Falcons are now on the clock. You look at their team needs: edge rusher, defensive tackle, cornerback. They're entering this season with last year's third rounder Desmond Ridder and former Washington quarterback Taylor Heinicke. I think you look at edge rushers, that is an absolute must. You look at Atlanta blowing late game leads due to their lack of pass rush. You look at more than half of the teams in the NFL having 40 or more sacks last year. The Falcons have had fewer than 40 sacks in the last 2 seasons combined. So that's a big need for them. But I'm going to go a different direction, right? I think this might not be the sexy pick, but I think pound for pound BPA, this is a good move for them. And I think he's a top 10 talent. And the guy I'm looking at is Peter Skoronski. Nice. Peter Skoronski is a very good player. I think he could start at left guard for the Falcons, which is a huge area of need for Atlanta. You look at this guy could possibly replace Jake Matthews at left tackle when that time comes. That makes a lot of sense. So for me, I'm going to go Peter Skoronski, I think, is the best offensive lineman in this draft. And I'm going to make that selection. Where is he ranked here? Wow. Number 13 according to the Draft Network.
Wow.
It is. All right. And Chicago is on the clock.
All right. Chicago trading back from the number 1 spot. Picked up a bunch of nice picks. Picked up DJ Moore. Hopefully that helps with Justin Fields. I certainly think they need to keep adding to the offense because I feel like Fields, with a lot of weapons could be pretty deadly, honestly, once he kind of, figures a few things out. But they also need to protect him. And, you just took Skoronski, but honestly, I think the perfect fit for Chicago is Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State, tackle. Um, Protecting Justin Fields, I think, is the utmost importance. Keeping him in the game certainly is their number one priority, and I think they would be ecstatic should Johnson be there for them at 9.
All right, there it is. The Eagles are on the clock with pick number 10.
A lot
Again,
of pressure.
Yep. Again, Will Anderson was selected at number 3. We didn't pick it in time. So the Eagles are on the clock here. I'm looking at the guys available. I think this is a defensive line target for Philly at number 10. It always has been. I do not believe in the Bijan rumors. That is just a waste of assets, premium assets at number 10. I don't care. And I'm doing this, so sorry, guys. I'm making my selection. There's 2 options here, and one is Myles Murphy, who I've raved and raved and raved about. The other guy is Nolan Smith. If I had to make a prediction, this is our final mock draft, whether that's at 10 or a trade back, which I would prefer a slight trade back in this scenario, especially with a particular quarterback hanging around here. It makes a lot of sense. Get like maybe a future first rounder in this, but I'm going to go. We're not doing trades. I'm going to go with Nolan Smith out of Georgia. I think he's got Eagles written all over him and has been. I know we met with the Eagles. I think Nolan Smith has really good odds to land in Philadelphia. Just incredible pass rusher. His numbers against the run in college are astronomical. Like, they're great. I don't think that translates that much in the NFL. I think he's just generally struggles against bigger defenders. We'll see how that goes. But, I mean, talk about an impressive athlete to learn under Hassan Reddick, who he favorably compares to. I think it makes a ton of sense. So I'm going to go Nolan Smith for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a very likely scenario. I'm shocked that you didn't take Myles over.
I'm going with my gut feeling, man. Gut feeling.
Yeah, just doing these as much as we've done them. But yeah, I think anytime you can get a great player, especially at a position where you spend a lot of resources on the defensive line, offensive line. And somebody from the SEC who has that pedigree, it plays kind of higher competition, so to speak. So yeah, I love that. I think that's a great selection. All right, so Tennessee is on the clock. They have a bunch of needs for sure. Offensive line, wide receiver, D-line. So there's certainly a bunch of options here. Yeah, I think while they figure out what they're doing at quarterback, and certainly they could go quarterback. I mean, they don't. They seem to be tired of Tannehill, and they don't seem to be in love with Malik Willis. So they certainly could grab that that fourth quarterback there. But I'm actually going to go another wide receiver for them. Easy choice. Jackson Smith and Jigba out of Ohio State. I think he's clear cut the number one wide receiver on this, in this draft. And they go ahead and pair nicely with their offense, whether or not they have Henry or not. I think, if Malik Willis is going to continue to, have a shot, they need to add some weapons. So, Smith and Jigba from Ohio State is my selection.
Love that selection, man. The Houston Texans are devastated.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely devastated with the potential of a CJ Stroud, JSN, NFL pairing duo.
Which I think could actually happen, and I think it would be pretty cool if it does, honestly.
Yeah, that's absolutely where I was going with that selection. So the Houston Texans are on the clock. They got CJ Stroud. They lost on JSN. Again, they have a very murky wide receiver room. Robert Woods is a solid number 2, probably a number 3. Where do we go from here? He JSN's my clear number 1. Other needs for the Houston Texans include offensive line, defensive line. I'm going to go with just the BPA here for the Houston Texans and get myself a tackle for CJ Stroud and just keep him happy. And the guy I'm going to go with here is Broderick Jones out of Georgia. All right, let me make that selection. Broderick Jones has an immense ceiling, great talent. Definitely projects as a potential Pro Bowler. And I think getting CJ Stroud and Broderick Jones in the same draft, let those two grow together, is a really good move.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think outside of the QB wide receiver pairing, the QB tackle pairing is a smart play for Houston for sure. In fact, Packers are now pissed that the last 2 picks, are the guys that they were wanting, or at least I was wanting to select for them. So yeah, I mean, Packers have finally traded Rodgers. They moved up from 15 to 13. They got a couple of picks from the Jets. They have some needs, whether it be wide receiver, tight end, edge, offensive line. I actually think they are going to go and try to give Jordan Love another weapon. I think if JSN is there in the real draft, I think it's a no-brainer for them. But outside of the fact that he got selected here, I don't know if I necessarily feel comfortable drafting another wide receiver this early. Well, either way, I'm going to go with tight end here. I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid.
All right.
He has been moving up draft boards, pretty steadily over the last month or so. And I think adding him as a weapon to go with Watson there in Green Bay for Jordan Love, to go along with their 2-headed monster at running back, I think it's a no-brainer. Add the kid some weapons, see what he can do, and then if you need to address the quarterback, in the future, pretty quickly. So, yeah.
All right. That means the New England Patriots are on the clock here at pick number 14. You look at their needs: offensive tackle, cornerback, pass rusher. The Patriots' offensive tackles were a disaster last year. I think Bill Belichick is, one of those guys that's always going to be looking at cornerback, and there's a lot of big physical guys that I think Belichick can mold in this year's group. And I think this is for some reason, I think this is a no-brainer for the Patriots. The guy I have circled for New England is Joey Porter Jr., a guy that I think has considerable upside at the next level. Let's go find where he's at 19 for the Draft Network. Ridiculous wingspan, ball hawk, guy that can play physical, solid in coverage. Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State is officially headed to the New England Patriots.
Nice. Yeah, I like that.
All right. New York Jets are on the clock. I love how they updated this. At least that's
good. Yeah, I was going to say props to the Draft Network for finally getting on top of something. Little ding there. Listen, they just finally completed the Rodgers trade. They got their quarterback for the next year or two, however it ends up being. They obviously have the offensive and defensive rookies. They have Hall coming back, but they need some offensive line help. And there's a couple of guys here that I really think that they hope kind of fall to them. But there is still one fella out there who I think is worth drafting this high, and I think certainly will help protect Rodgers as much as possible. And that is Darnell Wright
Nice.
tackle out of Tennessee. I just think, again, you just traded a good amount. You swapped picks, you traded a second, you traded a potential first. Um, yeah, let's make sure that he has time to throw it to his young receivers. And hopefully the Jets can just take that and actually finally make the playoffs this year. I think it's the East is a little bit more open than people realize, and adding Rodgers certainly gets them very close to that. So yeah, right to the Jets.
All right, Washington Commanders are on the clock with pick number 16. This is a team that really needs to upgrade the cornerback room. Fuller will be a free agent after 2023. They need to upgrade their offensive line as well. It ranked near the bottom of the league in quarterback hits, hurries, and sacks allowed. Where do we go from here? There's a couple of guys I really like, but at the end of the day, I think it would make a lot of sense for Washington to find a cornerback prospect with true CB1 potential. And that's the fact that he fell to number 16. This is a great selection for Washington. I'm going to go Devin Witherspoon for the Washington Commanders.
I would take
that. All right. Devin Witherspoon, great short area athlete, great tackler. He's my CB1 in this draft. I think he's got a lot of potential. I wouldn't put Gonzalez, Witherspoon, or Porter Jr. above some of the previous year's quarterbacks, but I do think they definitely have day one starter potential. So Devin Witherspoon, his tape is really fun to watch, and he is now in Washington.
Yeah, I would absolutely hate that. I'm not gonna lie. That's how you know it's a great pick. Whenever you hate the pick for Washington, New York, or Dallas, that means it's a pretty good one. So, all right, yep. Pittsburgh is super mad that Witherspoon and Porter just basically went 2 out of the last 3. I think they are really trying to target a corner to add to what is a pretty good secondary with Fitzpatrick for sure. But they clearly need a corner there. But I think looking at kind of the next tier of corners, I think they have other needs: offensive line, edge, wide receiver. Although they did just trade for Allen Robinson, which I don't really know what to make of that. But I think they are going to go with an edge here to help their defensive line. And I think Lucas Van Ness, is somebody that could come in and really kind of seems to kind of fit the Pittsburgh mold. And I think Tomlin would love this kid. Edge out of Iowa. Somebody that certainly I've seen as high as, in the top 10, but somebody I've seen as low as, just at the end of the round 1. So it's hard to kind of, evaluate where teams see his value, but I think it makes sense. It's a definite need for Pittsburgh, and build up that Pittsburgh defense. It's what they're known for.
Love it. All right, the Detroit Lions are on the clock. They selected Jalen Carter with their first selection, and just like I began the selection or discussion about the Detroit Lions, it's defense, defense, defense. That train is going to continue. You look at some of their needs. They still have needs at linebacker and cornerback. I am not high on the linebackers in this draft. So I think that defensive back train is going to continue here. And it's a guy that I'm really high on and have been for quite some time. It's not Deonte Banks. I am going to go with Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State. He's I believe, former wide receiver. And that shows when you watch tape. Let me make that selection. Emmanuel Forbes is arguably the best ball hawk in this draft. Elite production. And I think, getting Detroit just a ridiculous amount of defensive backs and secondary help is a good idea. So adding big time playmakers to this Detroit defense.
Nice. That that Detroit defense would be pretty darn scary. I'm not gonna lie. They got a lot of youth, and I think I like Campbell. I just do. He's just one of those guys that doesn't take any crap, and I think his guys respect him, and that defense plays with a little bit of extra, mean bone in them. So, that's jeez. That's going to be a pretty good defense for years to come.
Yep.
All right. Tampa Bay, and there's a lot I could do with Tampa Bay. Their needs are, kind of all over the place. They signed Baker Mayfield, but that's not really anything. They could use some edge, some corner, some offensive line. They could use running back. But honestly, I'm gonna kind of maybe shock the world a little bit. And I'm gonna say that they, weren't planning on it necessarily, but the way the draft falls, sometimes it changes what you're gonna do. And they're gonna draft quarterback Anthony Richardson.
Nice. There it is.
That way they get a year of Baker, maybe less, and kind of institute a new era in Tampa Bay after Tom has finally retired. So, I don't necessarily think that that's what their plan might be, but I think if something like that were to fall to them, I think that'd be a great selection for them to kind of restart.
All right. Anthony Richardson to... oh my gosh, what team was that?
Florida.
All right. I know. You just took Tampa Bay. Yeah, Tampa Bay. All right. Let's roll on to the Seattle Seahawks. They picked Tyree Wilson with their first selection. They checked off their box with their biggest need, edge rusher. Some other needs: offensive line, cornerback, defensive tackle. I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Brian Brzee here out of Clemson and just continue to add talent to that Seattle defensive line. Brian Brzee had an elite raw athletics score of 9.61, really good size, outstanding speed, ridiculous agility testing. Again, 6'5", 4.38 short shuttle. His three cone time was ridiculous. He's got some off the field things, some injury issues, some production concerns. But when you watch the tape and kind of deep dive into those, beyond the surface stats, I think Brian Brzee is an immense talent. So I'm going to go Seattle Seahawks continue to add big time talent, big time size to their defensive line.
So we got the Chargers here. Let's see. Chargers, like anybody, need help in the trenches. Probably could go for a corner. The Austin Eckler situation, you don't know what's really going on there, whether or not he's going to stay, whether or not they're going to give him a new contract. They could probably use a wide receiver as Allen and Mike Williams are seem to. I feel like they've been there for 20 years. So there's there's a lot of ways they could go, and that's actually where I think I'm gonna end up. I think this could be an easy spot for Bijan Robinson.
Okay,
but you have Austin Eckler. Just figure it out. Like, good Lord. You have one of the better running backs that can do it all. Figure it out. But I am gonna add a weapon, and I'm actually gonna add Quentin Johnson, wide receiver from TCU. I love this dude. I think early on he was probably the clear-cut number one wide receiver when first from the first jump. after the college football season. But I feel like he's kind of soured a little bit. But I still think he's going to be a great wide receiver in this league. Somebody who could really use his size to his advantage, and kind of usher in the new wide receiver. Way of San Diego, LA Chargers, as some of their wide receivers, like I said, are kind of getting up there.
All right. The Baltimore Ravens are on the clock. Looking at the board, Bijan is still there. Some other guys. What a weird situation for the Baltimore Ravens, man. Still trying to kind of figure out that Lamar Jackson situation. You look at new offensive coordinator Todd Monken. He needs better receivers behind Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar. You look at defensively, 3 of the Ravens' top 4 edge rushers are either free agents or have signed elsewhere. This is a team that has a lot of needs. Top cornerback Marcus Peters has yet to resign. And they've got 5 picks this year to plug some of these holes. My best guess for the Baltimore Ravens is to go BPA at defensive back. I'm going to go corner. So it's not technically BPA because I have another guy I like better. So I'm going to go, mostly because they selected Kyle Hamilton with the 14th overall pick last year, who I love. I'm going to bet on the person, and I'm going to bet on the talent. And this might be a surprise, but I'm going to go Kelee Ringo out of Georgia. This might be a surprise, and I think his zone ability is really impressive. I think he makes up ground extremely quickly. He needs to develop his awareness. He definitely needs to be coached up. This is definitely a roll of the dice, but his athleticism is outrageous. One of the most physical cornerbacks in this draft. I think Kelee Ringo has considerable upside. It's rich because I don't think the Ravens have a second-round pick, so they need to hit on this. Yeah. But it's my selection. I'm going to go Kelee Ringo out of Georgia. After some major glitches and technical difficulties with the Draft Network, guys, get your stuff together, man. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. We had to switch to PFF and continue the mock here. And Ryan, the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock.
All right, let's try to get through this without having some more issues here. All right, so Minnesota, they clearly need some defensive help, especially in the defensive backfield. They just lost Thielen. They could use another running mate with Jefferson. You don't know what's going on with Cook. Will they replace him with Bijan? Who knows? I don't see any of those teams that are kind of dangling out star running backs doing the flip-flop for Bijan. So I'm going to look for either a corner or a wide receiver. Yeah, there's a couple of nice wide receivers there, but I actually think I think I was originally going to, but I see Deonte Banks there. And I do like him out of Maryland, corner out of Maryland. So I'm going to go ahead and select that for the Minnesota Vikings, bolster up that defensive backfield that I feel like definitely needs more help. Let Jefferson do it all himself next year. I'm sure he'll be fine. So yeah, they got to help that defense for sure. Their defense was atrocious.
All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock. Pick number 24. Here you look at needs: cornerback, edge rusher. They need to add a lot of pass rush. The Jaguars defense had the same number of quarterback pressures last year as the Eagles, but the Eagles managed a league-leading 70 sacks, while the Jags got exactly half of that number, man. That's definitely concerning. Adding a top-notch defensive back who could force opposing quarterbacks to hold the ball a split second longer, to give Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker more time to finish plays sounds like a great idea. On offense, they need to add, a big-time pass catcher to kind of complement Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley. There aren't a lot of great receivers in this draft, so I think Jacksonville could possibly even go tight end, especially with Evan Ingram on a 1-year deal. So where do I go from here? I'm going to go BPA. I'm going to go BPA in the secondary. And one of my favorites is Brian Branch out of Alabama. He's undeniably talented. He's a strong fit, both short and long term. I think Brian Branch is kind of the Swiss Army knife of this draft. He's really solid at all things. And I think the premier safety by far in this class. Great in coverage, great in the box, can play in the slot. I think he's I think he's going to be excellent in the slot at the next level. So Brian Branch to the Jacksonville Jaguars for me.
Nice. Yeah, I would certainly love to have him find a way to be an Eagle, but definitely doesn't seem like it's going to be in the cards. All right, so the New York Football Giants are on the clock. Man, they need some help. Corner, they need a guard, safety, linebacker. They can always use another wide receiver. But I think corner is got to be their biggest need. I mean, they are literally in a division with so many great wide receivers. And there is one guy out of South Carolina that I do really like, and that is Cam Smith. They need to help, negate some of these great NFC East wide receivers, and he will certainly help to do that. So Cam Smith calling down to New York.
New York, and let's keep it in the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys are on the clock. Positions of need, I have tight end, running back, defensive tackle. They cut Ezekiel Elliott, franchise tag Tony Pollard, and then traded for Texans receiver Brandon Cooks and Colts cornerback Stephon Gilmore. So this team has been pretty busy this offseason, unlike previous years. You think with Zeke gone, pairing another running back with Pollard would be a no-brainer. Defensively, they could use depth at defensive tackle, linebacker, and corner. But it's a pretty well-rounded roster. So I'm going to go win now for Dak, and I'm going to go the Cowboys sprinting to the podium to announce Bijan Robinson as yet another running back for the Dallas Cowboys. He is the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley, no questions asked. And he falls to pick number 26. I'm not a big running back first round kind of guy, as you probably know. But the dude is extremely talented. He can do pretty much everything you ask, and he is heading to Dallas.
Nice. Yeah, I think Buffalo certainly would be a little angry. I think they certainly could be a team that grabs Bijan should he be there. But they certainly have some other needs for sure. Guard, corner, linebacker, safety. They could use probably could use another wide receiver. They could use a running back, although you never know how they kind of feel about Singletary and Cook. But again, Josh Allen let's be honest, kind of took a step back this year. And, what better way to help that than either give him a weapon or protect him a little more. So I'm going to go the protection route. And I am going to go with Osiris Torrance, the best full guard out there to help protect Josh Allen. So I think they definitely would have considered Bijan should he have been there, but I think they need to help Josh out a little bit.
Yep. All right, which means the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock. Needs, I have tight end, offensive tackle, and defensive back. The Bengals lost Hayden Hurst in free agency just a year after losing CJ Uzomah to the Jets. They're quite frankly looking at one of the best tight end groups in years, in many, many years. You look at adding a playmaker alongside Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and setting Joe Burrow up makes, I think, a ton of sense. And the guy that has fallen quite steadily here is Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame, giving Joe Burrow a safety blanket in that middle area of the field. Just like Brian Branch, kind of, he can do everything extremely well, block, catch. He's not going to like get you a lot of yards after the catch, but Michael Mayer is one of the safe, sure things, high floor prospects in this draft. So Michael Mayer goes to Cincinnati.
Nice. Yeah, that would be a little scary considering they have 7,000 wide receivers. They still technically have Joe Mixon. Burrow would have just a plethora of weapons there. It would be kind of nasty, not going to lie. All right, so the Saints are on the clock. The Saints need D-line help. They need, some pass catchers. I think they probably a little mad that Mayer just went off the board, but luckily there are two really good prospects right in their wheelhouse on the defensive line. And I am shocked that he is still here. And I am going to go with edge out of Clemson, Myles Murphy. I think they, again, this is a sprint to the podium kind of thing. This dude could have easily gone, 10, 15 picks earlier. This is a talented dude, and they need help on that defensive line so bad. Who they have right now are really getting up there in age, and they need to start that process. So they are thrilled to get Myles Murphy out of Clemson this late in the draft.
All right. The Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock here at pick number 30. Dude, I'm going to throw this one to you just to get your support because I have two guys here that I'm just feeling it. And one, because I've drafted him to the Eagles so many times. The other, I just want to hear your thoughts on. Number one, I think at number 30 is DeJuan Jones. I think that is just such a no-brainer. Kind of not a project, but a guy that needs a little bit of seasoning in the NFL. Needs to be coached up a little bit with his technique.
Fine.
DeJuan Jones under Blake Stoutland is just, with his size and everything, could be the next right tackle for the next 10 years. The other guy I'm looking at is Zay Flowers, a wide receiver out of Boston College. Wide receiver is kind of a underrated need for the Eagles. Zay Flowers, elite change of direction ability, big time playmaker. He's smallish, but he plays bigger downfield. He could, definitely grab balls midair and come down with it, and then just a massive after the catch performer. Any thoughts on Zay Flowers?
Yeah, listen, I am with you in the I personally like to lop in tight end 2 with wide receiver 3.
Okay.
I think they are very equal as far as getting that extra weapon for Jalen. I think it's super important. Quez was so underwhelming. They signed Zacharias from Atlanta to kind of come in and compete. But you draft Zay Flowers, he's your 3. And man, that is Brown, Smith, and Flowers. I mean, think about the Nick Sirianni press conference last year with the sprouting and the blooming and the flowers. I mean, come on, this stuff writes itself. Yep. I would be so in favor of that. I would also really be in favor of grabbing DeJuan Jones too, because again, super, super, super important need to kind of continue that offensive line replacement system that we have going on. We've had one of the best offensive lines for as long as I can remember. Yeah. And it just continues. And, you don't know how long you have Lane Johnson for. But yes, he theoretically could be the right tackle of the future. If I had to lean one way, I would probably say Flowers, just because of the more immediate impact that he would have on this squad. Whereas Jones, probably is going to be redshirting, as you said, a little raw, needs a little coaching up from Jeff Stoutland. So, I'd say I'd lean more the immediate need in this situation.
All right.
Personally, I'd also be looking at Cansey again, another defensive interior lineman that Howie would just salivate to try and add him. So yeah, I think if the board falls this way, I'm pretty sure Howie is probably happy either way.
All right, I made the selection. Zay Flowers to the Philadelphia Eagles, man, and wrap this up thing with pick number 31.
All right, so Kansas City Chiefs don't really have that many needs. They obviously just won a Super Bowl. They got rid of their best wide receiver, and everybody said, "Oh no, what are you going to do?" Well, they're still going to win the Super Bowl. So yeah, they could certainly use some D-line help. They could certainly use some O-line help. They have a very young secondary, so maybe they want to kind of continue on that train. Who knows? But just looking at I guess who is available there. Honestly, I think I'm probably going to go the route that the Eagles didn't go. And I think I'm going to take Dawan Jones.
Okay.
You obviously have a superstar in Patrick Mahomes. You clearly showed that you don't need Tyreek Hill, and you can replace Hill with a few players there and still be very productive offensively. But you also are giving Mahomes a lot of money, so continue to protect him. That idea in the NFL just can't die. Like, it has to be the most important thing. You have your star quarterback, protect him at all costs. So, yeah, I'll go with Jones, who I would have loved to see in an Eagles uniform eventually. But yeah, Chiefs got a good one there.
All right. Dude. So that is our full final first round mock for the draft. Before I say thank you to Ryan, I want to say not thank you to the Draft Network for failing us during this experiment. Wow, it's just been a hot mess express for the Draft Network. But thank you to
Draft Network. Take a year off.
All right, so. Ryan, where can we find you, man? What do you got going on at Philly Sports Alliance?
Yeah, we're doing our thing over at Philly Sports Alliance. You can catch us certainly on all social media platforms. Here on Twitter, please, we would appreciate the follow. We'll follow back. We love interacting with people. So Facebook certainly is another great spot. YouTube, but obviously, when you subscribe or follow on Facebook, put on those automatic notifications so you get all of our shows when we go live. But not only will you get all of our shows, you will get all of the Edge of Philly shows as well coming to you live. So if you're a Facebook guy, put on that automatic notification, get all the draft coverage leading up to everything. And then, of course, the analysis afterwards. But yeah, just doing our shows. I think we got a live show coming up next month that we'll be talking more about. And yeah, just loving life, doing our thing, and cannot wait for this draft. So, if you have nothing to do for the next 2 days, head on over to our Facebook, Edge of Philly Sports YouTube, whatever, however you want to get your information, and just go down that rabbit hole and just dive into draft coverage and get yourself informed, because this dude right here put out about 800,000 videos about draft prospects and positional groups, and we did about 100 mock drafts, and we did all types of stuff. So check it out and just get yourself ready for this NFL draft coming up in 2 days, so that when the Eagles ultimately make amazing selections, you can get super pumped up about it and know exactly what kind of player we're getting. So hats off to this guy. He put in the hours, more so than anybody I've seen. So honestly, you're helping not only Philly, but the world get ready for this draft.
I want to thank you, Ryan, because you've been my guy when it comes to mock drafts and things like that. We've done at least 10 of these, and you're always the best. So,
Hey, there's
guys,
still time. We got 2 more days. We can still fit a couple in, right?
maybe we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure I'll have a couple of drinks on Thursday, and I'll get that itch. What are you doing, Ryan?
Hey, it's 6:00 on Thursday. Let's throw it.
All right, but again, he is Ryan Reese at Philly Sports PSA on Twitter. One of the best dudes. Amazing Philly sports content at Philly Sports Alliance. Again, thank you, Ryan. This has been a journey. It's bittersweet for me because when this is over, it's literally over, and then we get ready for the 2024 NFL draft in May. So it doesn't stop.
Take a nap or two before you start up, okay?
I might have. Oh, yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. I just love this. I'm a loser. But he is Ryan. I am Dibes. Guys, if you agree or disagree with our selections, comment down below. Let us know your thoughts on the picks. Talk trash on Ryan, as always. It's a blast.
Go.
All right, for Ryan, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.
Good words.